Hey, Nerd Herd, it's Dynasty Nerds here back again with our final show of 2022. And what better way to end the year to talk about young Dynasty cornerstone players. We are going to redraft the 2020, the 2022 rookie class and see how this all pans out.
2020, 2021, 2022.
Got most of them, 2 of the 3 years.
Yeah, just figured I'd throw that last one in.
And is Justin Jefferson the greatest fantasy receiver of all time? Let's check it out.
Spoiler alert, yes.
Ready, set, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here with my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garrett Price.
How's it going?
It's going swell. We made it. It's the end of the year, 2022. Out the window. See ya.
Adios.
Yeah. Not bad.
That's a
See you
wrap.
later.
Good things, bad things happen, but that's life. That's how we get through it. So this is it. This is the last Dynasty Nerds show of 2022. We always take off between Christmas and New Year's because, it's just too good of a week to be doing anything that's work-related whatsoever. And as much as I love talking Dynasty fantasy football, sometimes it's still work.
Sometimes.
Anytime
It's
you have
fun
to do
work.
something, it's very fun work.
But it can still be work sometimes.
But I put in my weeks of vacation. I put my vacation time in way early.
PTO.
So I'll be going out to the mountains. Going to do a lot of snowboarding. I'm going to snowboard the whole week. Matt's going to join me for a couple of days. We're going to spend New Year's together and do some boarding. Can't wait for that in the mountains of New York.
That'll be awesome,
It's going to be swell.
Yep.
So it's been a good year. Hopefully everybody out there won their fantasy football matchup. If not, well, we got a lot of work to do from here on out.
Always next year.
So we figured a good way to end this year is do a fun show. And we're going to redraft the rookies from 2020, 2021, and 2022.
Yes.
PPR, 1 QB. And just kind of pick them and talk about them and see kind of where we stand where these young group of players and where they stand overall amongst players.
There was a lot of discussion and debate last time we did this because I don't know if you guys remember, we didn't draft Cam Akers. And there was like a huge blow up on Twitter that some popular show did not draft Cam Akers in the first 3 rounds.
Oh, no.
How's that one working out?
I mean, through 3 rounds, we probably could have got him in there somewhere.
We could have squeezed.
I think that was kind of on purpose by the end of it. We were like, no. No.
Yeah, I would say, again, this is, you could take it as back padding, narcissism, whatever you want to do it. But more times than not, when people criticize us for things that we say or to where when we go against the grain, we're right more than we're wrong.
Especially when the 3 of us are in unison on it.
That's the big thing.
Yeah. When the 3 of us are in unison about it, it's a pretty good chance.
Listen,
Right.
there's people out there that love to hate no matter what.
Like me not liking DJ Moore is going to end up being true. So that's going to be one of the exceptions because I'm out here by myself. No, I'm just kidding.
DJ Moore, man. I had some stats on DJ Moore I was going to use for the show, but he wasn't in
He's too
this
old.
window.
Too old. He's outside the window. He's basically
It was 2018. He's 2 years past the
He's
window.
over the hill, basically, guys, and you're still hanging on to this guy.
Past his prime.
Well, dude, a quick DJ Moore stat like we saw.
Can't resist.
I can't resist.
It doesn't work. Somebody needs to hear it.
He's a bye before the New Year. So I'm going to be here for 2 weeks. I got to let the nerd herd know.
Yeah.
We saw that one stat from the guy. Oh, I can't remember his name. You remember who he is? Jared sent over.
The thing from the guy.
The one with the face.
Wide receivers versus man coverage and how often they win versus man coverage and how
He just made the list. He was 10, right?
he was the list. He was number 10 overall.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that's still super young. He's somebody that
He's still not old.
Consistently gets the targets that he needs. Plays a ton of snaps. He's
just missing a good quarterback.
pretty much.
That's been his entire career is lots of flashes of potential, some really big plays, and then overall just inconsistency not because he's a bad player, but just because they've had some of the worst quarterback play in Carolina that any team has seen over recent memory. So,
yeah, and he plays all the time.
Let me ask you guys, Terry McLaurin or him, like skill-wise?
Terry McLaurin. DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. For you.
I'm gonna go McLaurin. I think.
I think McLaurin's a little bit better, and he is what he is. He's a wide receiver too, and that's And that's what I see in DJ Moore. Okay. Like I'm not trying to go out on this limb and say like DJ Moore is bad. I just don't like him as much as you guys.
Yeah.
And that's all. I guess I want that to be the point that people actually hold on to. Not that I just hate DJ Moore.
Right.
I just don't see him as like a difference maker, like an elite guy. I think you can get a DJ Moore
Right.
in other places.
I see-
He's not a differentiator for me.
I see him as a low end wide receiver 1 potential if he gets a good quarterback.
If he gets a quarterback, but I think the same could be said about Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if he had a good quarterback,
Yeah, but he's got Jahan Dotson out there to kind of argue with. You know,
Jahan Dotson has looked fantastic.
dude just scores tutties.
Terrace Marshall's starting to come along though. On a unrelated but related note,
3
he's
years
starting to
later.
look a little bit better.
A little bit better.
Yeah.
Better
So
late than never.
You know what's funny about DJ Moore too? As we get in here for Prize Picks, you know, I want to go on the year. I had picked out 4 good Prize Picks to end the year on. So Prize Picks, of course, if you don't know, and it's the first time you've listened in, they're a sponsor of ours that we absolutely adore. I'm gonna be going to New York and putting some good action in here. Basically, all you do is you go in it. It's a props, right? Like it's the over under. Like, do you think this player will do this? Yes or no? You get 3 out of 5 or 5 for 5. You can win up to 10 times your money. So you can win, put $20 down, you win $200 on the app.
$200.
That's a lot of cash flow.
$2,000?
That's what it is.
Christmas is right around the corner. Start filling those stockings with the pennies. So for me,
Crash.
Your kids are so disappointed, aren't they?
oh, yeah, I'm the dad. What are you
Look at all
gonna do?
these pennies.
Pennies.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna make a tough decision, what kind of coin are you gonna flip? Huh? You flip a quarter and it rolls down the drain. You're gonna be a little salty.
That's a whole year's worth of decisions for you, son.
Here's 352 pennies.
You never have to wonder again. You just flip that coin.
Good to go.
Heads is A, tails B. You're good to go.
You know, is Daniel Jones gonna go over 195 and a half receiving yards?
Richest.
Receiving yards? Hopefully not.
Doesn't look good because he's a quarterback.
Richest kids are going to be taking multiple choice question tests, flipping a coin. I don't need to study. My dad gave me a bunch of choices right here.
Is that like
my
the
boy.
Two-Face origin story right there? Is that why he carries that coin?
Yes.
His dad just filled his stocking with coins.
A, B, or C? What is this?
We're getting deep now. We're going DC Comics. I love it.
So Prize Picks, that's what they do. It's the over-unders, right? Just a whole bunch of props on there. They have a lot of gimmies like tonight's I think it was like Bradley Beal over like 10 points or something along those lines. And that's what's nice about it too. Like you can mix multi-sports. You can pick soccer, wrestling, baseball, basketball, college basketball, football, all these different sports and kind of put them all together and find the perfect ones for you. So you're not just limited to the NFL. Here are my four Prize picks of the week. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's hear it.
I like Daniel Jones over 195.5 passing yards.
Not receiving.
They're playing Minnesota. Minnesota is like literally the 31st team ranked against the quarterback, consistently give up big-time games. Daniel Jones looked pretty good. I know he's getting done on the ground, too, athletically, but Darius Slayton, I look for Saquon to step up in this game as well.
Yeah, Saquon will be a nice option out of the backfield. And they are starting to get some other guys involved.
Hodgins.
Yeah.
Isaiah Hodgins has looked pretty good out there. I like Ramondre Stevenson over 60.5 rushing yards versus the Bengals. The Bengals right now, mid-tier, like the top of the bottom third against the running back right now. So they're giving up a lot of points to the running back.
Top of the bottom.
Top of the bottom.
Top of the bottom.
I live life right there.
It's like kind of like Scottish or no Irish. Top of the bottom to you.
Top of the bottom. Why the bottom? I hate that guy. But I'm polite. So I like the over that, 60.5 rushing yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, over 76.5 receiving yards. They're playing Carolina. Carolina, I know they got J.C. Horn pretty solid, but they've been 30th against a wide receiver right now when it comes to fantasy football production.
And top of that, Amon-Ra runs mostly from the slot, so J.C. Horn probably won't even mess with him.
And my last favorite one, DJ Moore. Over
There it is.
53.5 receiving yards. They're playing Detroit, same thing.
Yeah, they've given up boatloads.
Terrible against the pass right now. So,
But he's
those are
got
my
a CUDA
Prize
on him.
Picks.
You got to watch out.
Yeah, Jeff Okuda, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Is he banged up? He's always
CUDA,
banged
the
up.
Barracuda.
So, and that's what Prize Picks does. You take those 4, you win some cash. You got the holiday to spend it all on because everybody wants everything from you because it's the holidays, and they're like, "Hey, where's my gift?"
You
And
get
you're
one of
like,
those
"Hey."
as seen on TV money guns with all your Prize Picks winnings.
We're all rich. So check them out. Make sure you use that promo code NERDS. You're going to get a 100% instant deposit match. It helps support us, helps support our sponsors. Using that promo code NERDS, let them know you hear it here. And wait for your states to kind of open up. You know, Ohio opens up legal sports gambling. Doesn't mean PrizePicks will be there January 1st. Can't wait.
January 1st.
It's going to be so
I'm very
poor.
excited about that.
You'll be sitting behind here like, I need those picks. My wife's gone.
I smoke rocks, Joe Rogan.
Oh, my goodness. Calm down, Joe Rogan. So, PrizePicks, promo code NERDS. And, of course, we only have a week and a half left of the Dynasty Nerds promo, Holiday 25. This gives you 25% off either your yearly membership or your 1 month of the membership. Check it out. The film room, all 22, tons and tons of tape in there on these rookies. Just sit there, watch some Bijan Robinson, and just wish you had the 1-1 because he looks that good.
He looks really good.
And check out the rest of this running back class, you know, like Jahmyr Gibbs. Check out these receivers.
Sean Tucker. Yep. Yeah,
So-
there's a lot of good players.
Holiday 25, you're going to save 25%, and it's only good for another week and a half. It's our biggest promotion yet. It's our biggest discount. Jump on there. If you buy it for the year, I promise you, you're going to reap the benefits of that with all the tools that we have. The GM 2.0 is going to launch right around mid-January. We had a big meeting about that last night. It looked absolutely beautiful and stunning.
So nice.
And it's going to be an app. So if you don't have the Dynasty Nerds app right now, get out there and get on there. Well, right now it's just a mock draft app. We'll be uploading the 2023 rookies here soon once everybody declares. But pretty soon it's going to be the Dynasty Nerds app in the GM. So make sure you get out there, download that, check it out. All right, guys, you ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
What are you doing? Superflex, 1 QB, 1 QB, PPR, right?
Otherwise, we're just going to be talking quarterbacks.
We're kicking
for a
it
while.
old school.
The whole first show would be quarterbacks, right?
At least the first like 4 or
1,
5.
2, 3, 4, 5,
6.
The first 6 picks would be quarterbacks.
Yeah, no doubt.
You would take all 6 of those guys over Jefferson and Chase?
Dude, I gave Trevor Lawrence a massive boost in my Superflex
No.
rankings.
I think I might take Justin Jefferson over a couple of those guys.
I would take Justin Jefferson over. Yeah, you're right. I would take Justin Jefferson over. Yeah. So I had the first pick in my 1 QB PPR overall rankings. So it doesn't have to be the first pick in this 2020, 2021, 22 class. It'd be my number 1 pick overall in a Dynasty startup, and that's Justin Jefferson. You know, digging into this, I went through it like I was doing some notes for the show, and I just went, I'm like, oh, Justin Jefferson. Let me just tell you why he's a 1-1, even though it's clear as day. And I went down this rabbit hole with Justin Jefferson for about 45 minutes, and what I came away with is Justin Jefferson potentially is on pace to become the greatest fantasy football wide receiver we've ever seen. Not just a great one, the best we've ever seen. And all you can go through is so far as what he's done so far. So through weeks 15, he's currently wide receiver 1 overall and PPR.
Yep.
He's averaging 23.4 points per game. Last year in 21, he averaged 19.4 points per game, and he was wide receiver 4. Wide receiver 6 his rookie year. So he averaged 17.1 points per game. So he's getting a little bit better there. Now, on top of that, he's a target hog. He leads all NFL in targets with 158. Outside of DJ Moore, it's just outside of like the quarterbacks, I mean. Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, and Michael Pittman Jr. are the 3 players that have played the most snaps for their NFL teams. 96% of the time, they are on the field getting ready to catch the football. And
Good stat.
that's huge.
I didn't know about that about Pittman either.
Very sneaky stat.
Yeah.
I got a couple more notes about Pittman down there as well. But Michael Pittman Jr., DJ Moore, and Justin Jefferson, outside of the quarterback, play the most snaps of anybody in the NFL. So obviously most quarterbacks play 100% of the snaps.
Right.
They're playing 96% of the snaps.
It's crazy.
And on top of Justin Jefferson, he's also third in NFL for passes not caught. He's only got 3 drops. So there's passes that weren't catchable with 47. Those are some singular Justin Jefferson stats. Now, who's his competition? Like to start the career off hot? Well, there's 2 rookies or 2 players that really came out like gangbusters. That's Randy Moss and Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. from 2000, where was he? From 2014 to 2016. His rookie year, he's wide receiver 7 in 12 games, wide receiver 5, and wide receiver 4. So he's never finished higher than wide receiver 3. And Justin Jefferson has already done that. He's already wide receiver 1 right now, and he's wide receiver 4 last year. So, on an overall finish-wise, better than Odell Beckham Jr. Where Odell Beckham got is his rookie year in those 12 games. He averaged 24.6 points per game.
That was insane.
Which is better than anybody here that I'm going to talk about. Randy Moss from 1998 to 2000. Different game back then, different era. So it's a little bit different on a points per game basis. He never averaged over 20. His highest was 19.56 in his third year.
That time though was very running back centric.
Yes,
and there was a lot more value there, and it was very hard to find wide receivers back then. That especially that were anywhere close to that.
Randy Moss finished in the top 10 overall. He was wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1. Averaged 19.4 points for his career. So amongst those three, we know how Odell Beckham's career has turned out. Like, not going to be the greatest all time. No. Randy Moss, one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen.
Sure.
To me, the best receiver I've ever seen in my life, Randy Moss. If I could pick one wide receiver for one game in their prime,
he was unstoppable.
It'd be Randy Moss.
Unstoppable.
He would be my number 1 as well. Megatron would be a close second.
Megatron's number 2. Yeah. Now, Justin Jefferson's biggest competition in my eyes for greatest fantasy receiver of all time isn't OBJ or Randy Moss. Those are just the three best starts we've seen in the NFL.
Right.
Randy Moss, Odell Beckham, and Justin Jefferson. His biggest competition for the greatest fantasy receiver of all time is
Jerry Rice?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown.
Didn't really come out until his second year. His second year, he was wide receiver 34 overall because Mike Wallace was on the same team. Mm-hmm. Mike Wallace did better than him. But once Mike Wallace left in his third year, in 2013, he was wide receiver 3, then wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1,
and then
wide receiver 5.
That's not a record skipping, by the way.
So between the year 2013 and 2018, he was the worst as last year, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 1, all in between, and wide receiver 3. So
insane numbers.
That's his competition, right? So Justin Jefferson's not just a 1-1 here. It's the 1-1 in a startup. It's interesting where he would go in a Superflex draft. Mm-hmm. And I would argue for my redraft teams, like looking at the players that are going number 1, like the Christian McCaffreys, the Austin Eckler held up, but Austin Eckler didn't even go 1. Jonathan Taylor, like there's a good chance next year if I had to 1-1, I'm just taking Justin Jefferson. I'm taking the safe. So safe. I'm taking the safe guy. So looking at all these and reading into this and seeing what he's on pace for, and a lot of things could happen, right? Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins come in and he can't find a wide receiver. I think Justin Jefferson's special enough. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
I agree.
So to me, looking at this, how much of an overpay would you be willing to spend on the greatest fantasy receiver of all time?
At the age that he's at right now, I would be willing to overpay by a fairly significant amount. I guess what is the asking price? Are we starting at 3 first, just in Superflex?
See, to me, that's an easy give.
Right,
3 first, an easy give.
Yeah, I would too. The only time I would maybe hesitate if one of those 3 was the 1-1 this year. Sure. That would be the only way I would hesitate a little bit. I'd want to know where those other 2 were.
But at the same time, that might be the only piece that's enticing enough
to get him off somebody's
done.
team.
You know what I mean? Because as a person that has a bunch of shares of Justin Jefferson, I'd basically laugh in people's faces if they weren't coming correct.
So let's say someone offered you 1-1 this year, and we'll say it's Superflex league because most of our leagues are.
Sure.
1-1 this year, 1-3 this year, and 1-5 this year. Would you do that for Justin Jefferson?
That's a good value.
That's a lot of good value.
It's a good class. Superflex, so there's some quarterbacks in there.
So here's the deal: if I was in a rebuild and Justin Jefferson was my only piece, and I didn't have a lot of draft capital, that would be something I would consider. If I was on the flip side of that for whatever reason, and I was a more contending team, I think I would have a hard time getting rid of a very known commodity in Justin Jefferson for a bunch of unknowns, and that is how I would see it. So do the 3 pieces that I don't really know if they're going to pan out and be something, is that enough to sway me away from a difference, the 1-1 of difference makers at a normal position? And I don't think it would. Mm-hmm. So that would really depend on my team, as most of these
deals would. Sure,
it would. But if I was looking for a total rebuild and I had almost no assets, and it was just Justin That's a hard one for
Justin.
If I just had Justin Jefferson, then I would consider giving away for that package that you just presented.
That's a good haul. I would consider giving away Justin Jefferson for that.
But it would have to be something like that where you're looking at 1-1 plus 2 other first-round picks that are like legitimate first-round picks, not just 11 and 12.
Right, because that doesn't even move the needle, like in the Justin Jefferson conversation anyway.
He's a hard needle to move, Justin Jefferson. Like he's the kind of player just looking for any kind of window to put your hand in there. And hopefully, if you have the 1-1, you hope that Bijan Robinson hype starts to grow so crazy that could open a window for Justin Jefferson. What about this? Would you give Jamar Chase in a late first for Justin Jefferson? Who's my number 2 overall player on the board overall.
Right.
Jamar Chase has never been wide receiver 1 in 2 years. I know it's not a lot. I know it's not a lot of time, but we're talking about a guy that averages about 3 points less per game than Justin Jefferson. Is that 3 points per game worth another first?
I'm really struggling with this.
It's a tough one. It really is. I mean, if you just look at his rookie year compared to Justin Jefferson's, there are some comparisons to be drawn there. They both had, I think,
monster years.
I think Jamar Chase had a little bit more as far as yardage. I think it was 55 to 1408 or something.
Justin Jefferson at his rookie year averaged 17.1 points per game in 16 games. Jamar Chase averaged 17.9. So he averaged 18.8 points more his rookie year. This year, Jamar Chase is averaging 20.6 points per game. Justin Jefferson's averaging 23.4.
So it's close, man. I don't know that I...
Late first, too, like 11, 12.
I might do that, actually. I like Justin Jefferson that much.
So you'd rather Justin Jefferson?
I might do that. I might do Chase and, oh, gosh, is it really worth it?
That's the thing. Like, the stability of Justin Jefferson has been so nice. Not that Chase has been unstable necessarily,
no,
but
he missed a chunk of games this year.
injuries.
He missed like 4 games this year. Yeah.
I think I'll go Chase in the pick.
Pick?
I think I'll go Chase, but that's so close.
Yeah, being a late first kind of makes it like those late firsts sometimes can be slightly overrated. You know, this class is pretty deep. At the same time, even deep classes.
Like if it was last year, you're looking at potentially Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson. Like those were guys in that range, and you'd probably be decently happy with that if you made that deal. But you could have also had, Sky Moore, who right now isn't looking great at all. You could
flip it and say you had George Pickens and Jamar Chase, and you'd be like, oh, I'd rather have George Pickens than Jamar Chase. So it's an interesting. I just want to bring that up because. Yeah. When you get a player like, and Jamar Chase could easily enter this category too, but I just want to go back to like how special Justin Jefferson has been. And when it's all said and done, when you see that stretch of like Julio Jones, another person who's been an all-timer, AJ Green was up there for a while. I'm talking about like DeAndre Hopkins has been up there for a very long time. To get this out of Justin Jefferson for the next 6 years is... Again, it's like finding that unicorn. That's the kind of player he is. And now, can Jamar Chase be that too? Yeah, but once you get outside of Jamar Chase, it's over with. You know what I mean? Like that conversation ends. There's some really good players I love, but like there's no other Justin Jefferson. And Jamar Chase is the closest thing we got.
Right.
But it's hard for me to foresee. Do you see anybody taking Jamar Chase outside of a Bengals fan, number 1 overall?
No.
Okay.
No, me neither. So let's move on to my pick, number 2. Let's just roll right into it. Jamar Chase is going to be my pick here at number 2. I think it's a fairly easy pick with Justin Jefferson off the board to just go ahead and gobble him up. And the thing about, let's talk about the difference a little bit more. I mean, Justin Jefferson, they're both great players. They're just different players, right? The way they win is different. I mean, Justin Jefferson, did you see the route that he put on this past weekend?
You texted me. Filthy,
man. It was just, oh my gosh. That's kind of stuff isn't in Jamar Chase's bag. He's got a different set of skills. He's going to be able to win more contested. I guess you could throw it to him when he's kind of not as open as a guy like
he does a little more bully ball.
He's a little bit more bully ball. He's a little bit more go up and get it type of guy. Not that stuff's not in Justin Jefferson's bag of tricks, because I think he has a lot of – he's got an unlimited bag, that Justin Jefferson guy. But Jamar Chase has a lot of ways to win that kind of don't need that kind of exact precision route running that's going to break somebody's ankles like Justin Jefferson has. So that's kind of where he's slightly more physical, I would say. But Justin Jefferson, man, can you see some of the hits this dude's taking and just getting up?
He does.
I mean, I don't know. The dude's
He's beyond
tough.
special.
He is. So back to Jamar Chase, my pick.
I was saying you're waxing poetic about his pick. Great pick, Rich. Great pick.
Back to Jamar Chase. He's clearly the number 2 guy. He's better than anyone else, but he's just not as good as Justin Jefferson. That's why I'm taking him here, because he's not there.
I mean, the rapport he's got with Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
the longevity he's going to have, and I mean, I think here's the one thing you give Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson: that long-term rapport and connection with Joe Burrow. Like, that's not going anywhere.
It's not.
For literally their entire career. So you have that, and as that grows, you can get that Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison kind of combo, right? Like that does mean a lot. That actually does hold weight in the league. So what happens after Kirk Cousins will be important for Justin Jefferson. So there's a chance 4 years from now, Jamar Chase is our Dynasty 1-1 just because, oh, dude, we all know how good Justin Jefferson is. He just got to get that quarterback. You know, It's like, how much longer is Baker Mayfield going to last in Minnesota? Not long.
Not long if he doesn't throw the ball to Justin Jefferson.
That one where Van Jefferson was wide open yesterday.
I missed it. I didn't see it. Was it bad? Was it pretty
The worst
egregious?
part is like Baker takes a couple steps. He looks downfield like where Van Jefferson. You assume that's where he was looking.
Right.
And Jefferson did this nice little filthy route where he dug in and then went out to the out route. And it could have been a touchdown. And he didn't even took a sack instead. So, yeah.
Well, there's that.
There you go.
Didn't even throw it.
Hey, he had the one game and it was fun.
It was fun.
So this is consensus
Nostalgic.
1-1, 1-2.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, Justin
You guys
Jefferson.
got the easy picks.
There's no wrong answer unless you take Jamar Chase first.
There's no wrong answer unless it's the wrong one.
Unless you do something other than what I did.
So now let's get into the thick of it. I think this is where we're going to start seeing some differential in our agreements, like where we would take somebody.
Yeah.
Now we have, outside the receivers, which way we can go. So Garrett, let's see where we're going to go here.
I had a really hard time with this pick. And as soon as we kind of set things up for this and I had the third pick, I was like, oh, crap.
So you knew the 1-1, 1-2. I was like, hard time.
Yeah.
We're literally drafting this live. We have no idea who somebody's going to pick.
Yeah. So I know who I'm taking. I know who I'm taking. I struggled a little bit, but basically it came down to looking at these lists. I look at the quarterbacks. Too early for quarterback in one QB.
Yep.
I look at the running backs. There's a lot of names on there that I like, but the running back position is tough right now. There's a lot of ick right now with the running back position.
There's something with every one of these guys.
There is. There's something with every single one of them. So it's tough. Wide receiver, there's a lot of good names, a lot of exciting players.
Sure.
But there's really just one tight end.
Yep.
And that's really kind of how it boiled down for me was of all of the players on here over the past 3 years, yes, are there some tight ends that I like? For sure. Dulcich, Kmet, Freiermuth, those are nice players. But I don't think any of those have an opportunity to ascend the position. And look, I get it that this year was frustrating with Kyle Pitts. He didn't have a big year, and then he got injured on top of it. But even in this year where they're like, well, they never threw the ball and blah, 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 he still actually had the 5th best target share among all tight ends this year. So even though they didn't throw the ball a ton, when they threw it, it was going to Kyle Pitts a lot. We saw a lot of 6 and 7 target games. In fact, he averaged 6 targets per game. So he averaged a good amount of targets for a team that did not throw the ball a lot. It's not like he's in Minnesota. He's not in Kansas City. He's not in some of these teams that are just airing it out a ton.
They hadn't had a net 250-yard passing game all season.
Right.
It's in Atlanta. So that's just how little they were passing the ball. And that's by design. They were trying to hide the fact that Mariota can't throw the ball. I mean,
just can't throw the ball.
Yeah. So it's not. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched any of this Atlanta game.
It didn't.
Desmond Ritter didn't look any better.
He did not look good.
So they're going to be looking for a QB.
Yeah, and we'll see if they get one. That's going to be the toughest part of all of this. Is they're not going to be picking super high.
They have 5 wins.
They have 5 wins, but that's probably keeping them out of the top 5 at least.
Yeah. They're going to kind of team that probably has to roll the dice like Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, which doesn't make me feel great about this pick if that's the case. But
trade up too, though.
All of that being said, he's still so young. He's still so athletic. And when you look at the positional scarcity, I can get the wide receiver that I would take here at 3 will be the same caliber receiver I will take 3 or 4 picks from now.
100%. I was hoping that Kyle Pitts was going to somehow slide to my next pick, just because I see the same thing that you see. He was the last of the guys that are like huge differentiators at their position. So I would have picked him.
And I think if anything, as a dynasty player, you should almost be. Obviously, if you're a Kyle Pitts owner, you're not happy about this year whatsoever. But at the same time, like you probably took him pretty high. Your team wasn't a legit contender for the most part. Mm-hmm. But if anything, as a dynasty player, you should be somewhat happy because it opens a buy window for Kyle Pitts.
I've bought Kyle Pitts 3 times during the course of the year this year, and 2 of them were I got Kyle Pitts plus for Mark Andrews.
Oh, wow.
For teams that were trying to make a run.
Yeah. Sure.
And this was 4 or 5 weeks ago when Mark Andrews was playing well. Obviously, I feel bad for the people that got Mark Andrews.
And if you go back to late July, early August, just remember the fire out there on Kyle Pitts. Like he was a talk of the dynasty community. Like literally the hardest player to acquire almost all time. You know what I mean?
He was in like the easy. You start at 3 first-round draft pick level. Like boom, that's where he's at.
And now you can probably get him for like 1-2.
Yeah.
So it's and in tight end premium, like. I know as crazy as it sounds, like there's a legit argument. Okay, Bijan Robinson, as good as he looks, as good as he will be, there's a lot of good running backs. Definitely even in this class, there's only one Kyle Pitts.
Right.
And every year, I've been doing this podcast for 9 years. 9 years. Been playing fantasy football for 25 years. Every single year, this is the year the tight ends are going to step up a little bit. This is the year the tight ends are going to be step up a little bit.
Nah.
It's literally just Travis Kelce and whoever wants to come along and play.
Yep.
And before that, it was Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before that, it was,
It's 2 or 3 guys.
It's 2 or 3 guys a year.
Yep.
And that's it. So, like, to get one of those guys, it's why I'm so bullish on the position. It's why I draft so many of them. It's it's why I'm willing to overpay. It's why this offseason I'm going to do everything I can to go out there and acquire Kyle Pitts early in the season. I'm going to try and use my draft capital, use it. Well, I don't have a lot of draft capital, but for the ones I do, try to get.
I'm going to use it.
Then I'm going to try and get Kyle Pitts because there's a window here. And Dynasty Fantasy Football is about finding those windows to grab talent, right?
Yep.
No matter what it will be, whether the player did something they weren't supposed to do, whether they got injured, or whether they're just in a bad overall scheme and system for that 1 year. Mm-hmm. These windows are few and far between, but when they open up, you have to jump in with both feet and see what you can do and be willing to pay. Again, it's kind of where it came out to be where what an overpaid today is an underpay tomorrow.
Yep. That's
where I got that slogan from, is for moments like that where you can get Kyle Pitts. I'm like, wow, you give it to Kyle Pitts, you didn't do anything last year. Yeah, I know. I'm a sucker. Then 5 years from now, when he's 100 points more than tight end 2 Greg Dulcich, you're going to be extremely ecstatic. So I love that pick. I love the player. And you're right, Gary. I think this is a perfect opportunity to jump on him. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great pick here because you're getting such a rare commodity. And sometimes it's not about the best overall player. It's about supply and demand as well.
Right.
And
that absolutely plays into this.
And tight end. So I'm back on the clock here, and I'm the same way. It's so hard for me to look at these running. I understand what you said with the receivers, right? Like, there's no difference in the guy I take here and possibly the guy 4 picks from now. The running back situation can be a little bit different here because you have Jonathan Taylor and Breece Hall, and they could be true difference makers, both on IR right now. And I want to take one of these running backs, but I still can't pass up another guy who hopefully might have a bye window here. And I'm going to take Jalen Waddle. So I like these receivers. I'll probably go receiver here for the next couple picks, but Jalen Waddle to me is still a very special player. Last year, his rookie year is wide receiver 7 overall. Started this year off real hot. It's kind of died down a little bit these last couple of weeks. Tyreek Hill is absolutely on fire. Some of these cold weather games. But to me, Jalen Waddle is not only a fantastic piece now, but I still think he's a great long-term piece as well.
100%.
He's such a dynamic player. He's the kind of player that could easily, even with Tyreek Hill on his team, still be a wide receiver 1 for you. And anytime you can get a potential wide receiver 1, you have to jump on those guys. If they're under the age of 25, that's a dynasty unicorn, right? A wide receiver 1, which is 1 through 12, that's under 25. Because those are the players you plug and play for the next 8 years on your roster, and you never worry about it. You never second guess it. You don't worry about their matchups. They're in there week in and week out, and that's where Jalen Waddle falls into that category.
How about this? I was just watching Red Zone Channel with my dad this past weekend, and the play where Waddle pulls away from the whole defense and scores a touchdown.
Yep.
My dad, who watches football, likes football, he doesn't know the entire league like we do. He's like, wow, who the heck is that guy? I'm like, that's Jalen Waddle. He's like, that dude's got another gear. I'm like, yeah, he does have another gear. I'm like, he's not as fast as Tyreek.
Somehow.
And that's like where the list ends.
Right.
Like, the people he's not as fast as. So yeah, like that's it. So he has that kind of ability that just pops off the screen to anybody. I mean, It doesn't have to be somebody that follows the game as closely as us. Waddle is special. He has something that no one can teach is that top gear speed.
And he's definitely not even a buy low because he's one of those players. It's funny because like if you amongst the dynasty community, you never hear about Jalen Waddle really at all. You don't hear about him. But if you have him on your roster, you know exactly what you got.
Yep.
And good luck on my opinion would be like, good luck trying to go trade for him, right? Sure. Like he falls in that category. You're overpaying for Jalen Waddle. Yep. But to me, those are kind of players. If I'm overpaying for anybody, it's not a running back, obviously a quarterback in Superflex, obviously Kyle Pitts, but it's a wide receiver under 25 that could be a wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys I'm willing to overpay year in and year out because if I had to give up first in the future too, that's okay. Because I'm going to reap the rewards here on this player for way beyond those first-round picks. So Jalen Waddle's my pick.
All right, so I'm going to move on to my pick. You guys already see it.
Yeah, I already see
Garrett
it.
was already laughing because I threw it up the second
so quick.
the second he picked Jalen Waddle, I threw CeeDee Lamb up there as my pick. This is like the last guy that I see on this list on the wide receivers that I can write in right now as a wide receiver 1 kind of for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And you look at it, and Jalen Waddle's, a good player in his second year. CeeDee Lamb's in his third year. CeeDee Lamb's actually 6 months younger than Jalen Waddle as well on top of that. So you get a little bit more age, a little bit more longevity with a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Not that matters, like 6 months doesn't really matter. But just to have that extra year in the NFL and for him to be younger is a little like cherry on the top for me. Mm-hmm. And CeeDee Lamb, I can't remember who had the stat on Twitter that I was reading, but he's one of only a handful of people. Justin Jefferson's one of them, CeeDee Lamb, and one other player that have gone over 1,000 yards for their first 3 years in total scrimmage yards. So he didn't do, his rookie year was like 950 something receiving yards, but he had like 80 something rushing yards. And he's been over 1,000 yards receiving, including this year, every the past 2 years as well. So he's one of only like 3 players to do it consistently right out of the gate. Year 1, year 2, year 3. CeeDee Lamb is a guy that I think is ascending, and he's already on pace. He's like right at his numbers already from last year now, and he's got 3 games left or whatever. Sure. So he's going to far surpass his numbers from last year, and he's just getting better and better. I think it hasn't quite been the curve that we've seen from Justin Jefferson. So a guy like CeeDee Lamb kind of gets left behind a little bit.
Sure.
But he's still putting up very consistent wide receiver 1 numbers, and he always is going to have a chance, I think, in this Dallas Cowboy attack to kind of be a guy that's in the conversation as a wide receiver 1. Who knows? I don't think he'll ever be the wide receiver 1, but he's going to get you mid-range wide receiver 1 numbers pretty consistently.
And he was somebody we were like, at least I know I was. I put out there when we were doing the like, how worried are you meter, and I was like 10. Like I was super worried about him, just about the effort he was putting in, his hands, his route running. He's looked like everything I wanted him to look like almost since then. So. Right. That's who I was between Jalen Waddle and CeeDee Lamb here. But I'll just say the guy who I feel like can get just the more explosive player in a Jalen Waddle. But I mean, you can't go wrong. I'm with you. Like that's the last guy that I look as 100%, like not 99%, 100% a franchise cornerstone. Like everybody on the board that we picked right now is right about that. I think that's just about it for me for like a franchise cornerstone piece that I could see on my roster from start to finish his career. Like everybody else, I could see I can move. Definitely the running backs are always going to move. Like I never want to have a running back and start a career unless I just don't get the value back. So Garrett, you're on the clock.
Yeah, once again, it puts me in a spot where it's like another, like I keep getting the tear breaks.
You're in a pickle.
I am in a pickle. I have decided to take the first running back off the board. And it was really tough deciding which one I was going to take. But I actually ended up going with Breece Hall over Jonathan Taylor. Part of that was the years. Jonathan Taylor's been in the league 2 more years than Breece Hall has. I get ACL injury. That can be a little bit scary, but they're not as scary as they once were. Most players make it back just fine to a similar level that they were than they were at before. And we're even seeing J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, it took him a while, but he had a messed up knee. All kinds of things were wrong, and he's starting to look like his old self again. And even though he's not even at full strength, he's still producing like an RB1 now in the fantasy playoffs. So I think we can do the exact same thing with Breece Hall. We're going to see him produce really well. We're going to see him be used not only as a running in the running game, but as a receiver. We're talking about a guy that in 2 of his games this year, he had 9 targets and 11 targets. So they were looking for him in the passing game, scored a touchdown in his last 4 consecutive games, broke over 100 yards. And he had 97 yards in his second to last game, 116 rushing yards the game before that. He had a 100 receiving yard game. Like, he was just doing some very, very special things right out of the gate. And we haven't seen that as much from the running back position lately. A lot of these better running backs that we've seen takes them a little while to get eased into the season, maybe share some time with people or dealing with injuries or whatever. But like, he came off right out the rip and he was a legitimate RB1 for fantasy football. So it was sad that things ended the way they did. But if he would have continued the season, didn't even have to ascend anymore, just at the same pace that he was going, he would have probably been a top 5 or 6 running back, and we would be talking about how elite he was and how, he might even gone over some of the people that we just drafted had he stayed healthy. So as much as there is a little bit of risk with it being a running back and with it being a guy that's coming off the ACL, I feel really good about Breece Hall.
My current running back 1 overall until Bijan enters the league. Going to be Bijan, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor. We'll talk about some of the other guys here in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can give me your list right now, just so just for fun.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, man, I like the Breece Hall pick because, like you said, he is a differentiator. He catches passes, and to me, he like I've said it before. I've comped him to like a Matt Forte type of back, and I do think that's going to be his kind of trajectory. And Matt Forte had many seasons where he was catching a ton of passes and just kind of riding people to championships. So I think Breece Hall is that type of back and that type of difference maker. So I think this makes a lot of sense to pick him here.
Yeah, and I'm even going to go over to predictionstrike.com. I'm going to go over there.
Nice.
I'm going to find Breece Hall, and I'm probably going to buy a lot of shares because a little bit of a lull right now.
Absolutely.
People forget about these players that aren't playing, and they, it creates buying windows, buying opportunities. Another player that I have bought, not just on Prediction Strike, but on my fantasy teams. But that's what you can do at predictionstrike.com. You can go there. You can buy players just like they're stocks, just like it's a stock market. Buy and sell, but you got to time it right. You don't time it right, you're going to lose some money. But if you time it perfectly, you can make bank over at Prediction Strike. Go over there, use promo code Dynasty. That's right, promo code Dynasty, and you will get a free share of a player just for signing up with the promo code. That's all you got to do. Just go there, receive a free share of a player, and predictionstrike.com.
Go get Breece Hall, man.
Go get Breece Hall. Go get these rookies once we start talking about them. All that good stuff. Predictionstrike.com, promo code Dynasty.
All right, so I'm on the clock here. Tough spot. There's a lot of players. I'd love to trade down here. If I couldn't.
I will give you.
But if I'm on the clock here and I'm looking here and it's just, I had my first round pick. I'm looking. If this was a startup, I probably wouldn't go running back just because I don't like my first round pick to be a running back in a dynasty startup. I really don't even like my second round pick to be a first round startup. But overall talent, if I'm looking at it this way, I'm probably still going to take Jonathan Taylor here. Running back for the Colts. Still a very special player. Offensive line was a little banged up. The whole quarterback situation didn't help him out this year. No. The team's still on the up, and Jonathan Taylor kind of took a hit for it this year. Just wasn't as dynamic as we want him to be as he was last year.
Just banged up all year.
Yeah, so just banged up all year. Had the ankle, obviously on IR now. He's going to finish the year, not even as a running back too. He's currently running back 26 in PPR leagues. So not even a running back 2. And this is literally my whole point of like why I don't like taking running backs, right? Like we did a whole show on a couple of years ago, like how hard it is to be a running back 1 more than once. No matter, and a lot of times it doesn't have to be the player. It's just injuries that, for the most part, that eat this guy up. You're about to running back 1 overall. Jonathan Taylor, some people would take him 1-1 in a startup. Now he won't even finish as a running back 2 this year. And he just now went on IR this week. So it shows you how hard that is. And the reason I would take him here is because of what you said a little while ago, Garrett. Like a lot of these receivers have the same tier. And probably the guy I really want anyways, I could probably get when I pick again.
Right.
And the odds of Jonathan Taylor being here are pretty slim. So I know Jonathan Taylor has the talent to be the number 1 overall running back, even with Bijan Robinson coming in the league, even with Breece Hall, even with Saquon and Christian McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor is talented enough to be that running back 1 overall. And the fact that Nyheim Hines won't be there next year, and if we take another step in the passing game, it's just they need a quarterback, right? Until they get a quarterback, it's going to be hard on Jonathan Taylor too because you can stack the box. So I'm just going to take an elite running back here, coming off of running back 1 overall year last year. Not a great year, but same thing like Kyle Pitts, right? Buying the dip a little bit here. So I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor.
No, I like that pick. I think it makes a ton of sense also. I mean, you mentioned it, man, and I'm having the same kind of struggle here with the next pick. Do I go with one of these other guys? I mean, there are a couple of guys that potentially could be their wide receiver 1 on their team, but maybe we haven't seen enough out of them to go out and grab them. Or I could rip Garrett's heart out and take Javonte Williams right off underneath him. And so so that's what I'm jostling with right now.
Doesn't sound like you're jostling. Sounds like you've decided.
It sounds like my cackle tells the whole story, doesn't it?
It does. You have a tell, Matt.
Man, there's like 3 other running backs I would take over.
You've always been a Javonte hater.
I am not a Javonte hater.
You're a Javonte hater.
He's just another really good running back.
It's DJ Moore for him as Javonte for you.
Yeah. All right, so
mine's Najee Harris.
I guess I've gone far enough down this rabbit hole. I'm going to take him. Since you guys started a run here, Javonte Williams. Obviously, they've finally gotten rid of Melvin Gordon. And I don't think Latavius Murray is long for the world here. Sure. So Javonte should
32-year-old running backs, you don't invest in those?
Should be coming back to a pretty good situation next year. Granted, if the knee's healthy and everything's all good. Right. So I am going to go out on a limb and cross my fingers that everything's good. Obviously, way too early to hear any sort of real solid news on his recovery or anything like that. But Javonte Williams potentially coming back to a very good situation here with the Broncos. I would think some sort of overhaul is going to happen with this offense in the offseason. Sure. I don't think
the head coach probably as well.
The head coach will probably be gone, and we'll probably be looking at a whole new scheme. But Javonte Williams is the type of back, in my opinion, that does everything well. Catches passes. He's one of the toughest runners and great after contact. It was kind of between him and Nick Chubb while he was healthy, number 1 and number 2 after contact running back. So Javonte Williams, I'll let you wax some poetic words on him as well.
Yeah, I mean the forced missed tackles from Javonte Williams was just off the charts in college, off the charts in the pros, and he was still getting better. He was still learning. Right. You could tell he was getting better with reading the holes.
Converted linebacker.
And,
right.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, he was getting better, and you're right, being able to do things in the passing game. He became like even check down Charlie for Russell Wilson there for a little bit, where he was getting 7, 8, 9 receptions. So everything was paving for this really good season, and just the really, really unfortunate injury. But this is another player that maybe even more so than Breece Hall, because he didn't have the rookie excitement behind him. It's easy to kind of forget how good he was. He's another player that you should go back and watch a little bit of his tape again, and it'll remind you like, oh shoot, this guy's really, really good with the football in his hands. So I like the pick. I know Rich doesn't like the pick, but I like the pick there.
I like the player. Mm-hmm. I just, for a guy coming off ACL and MCL injury, who's not guaranteed to start the season next year. And I know it's such a short window for these running backs. I probably, just after that Jonathan Taylor pick, even Jonathan Taylor pick, I don't love, to be honest with you. I'd probably start swinging towards like, the T. Higgins, right around there.
I saw enough names on that list that I wanted to rip Garrett's heart out and go ahead.
Fair.
And jump.
Yeah,
Very
So you have to know
were successful.
You have to know who you're drafting with
Yeah.
and kind of be able to jump them.
Key strategy to
Yep.
dynasty draft.
Absolutely.
That's why Pitts went third. Okay. I feel like every pick I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Every time.
Right.
You guys keep putting me in these spots.
Meanwhile, they're all great players.
Oh, yeah, yes. It's not because they're bad. It's just there's no like tiers here. They're all kind of one
You're
big
looking
tier.
at 6 or 7 players instead of, hey,
Yeah.
I got 2 or 3 guys to
All right.
choose from right now.
I'm going to swing for the fences here.
Yes, do it.
I'm going to take Garrett Wilson.
Yes.
Love it.
That's who
what
I
I
was
was gonna take.
That's who I was going
Really?
to take if I didn't take.
Is that why you were throwing T. Higgins out there? Like, yeah, you could have had T. Higgins. Like,
I was 100% going to take Garrett Wilson, and that's why I mentioned I see a couple guys that could be the number
Sure.
1 on their team. That's who I was referring to.
well, in the past 7 games, in 6 of those 7 games, Garrett Wilson, as a rookie, has had 78 or more yards. He's been getting the targets. He's been finding the end zone. And it's not even a good passing offense. And he's about to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark as a rookie. Like that, we've been spoiled a little bit with some of these really good receivers, but it's tough to cross 1,000 yards as a rookie. Like there's a lot that goes into it. There were some veterans on this team that were talented players. I know Corey Davis isn't who he used to be, but still solid veteran, a young upside guy, and Elijah Moore. Like there were hurdles for him to become number 1 guy. It wasn't just going to be handed to him.
Sure, and he did it.
He ascended in a team that doesn't pass great. He ascended to the top of the depth chart, and we're seeing him win a myriad of ways. We're seeing him win with the jump ball. We're seeing him win yards after the catch. We're seeing him win a lot of.
We're
different
seeing
ways.
him win the same way he won in college.
Exactly.
And that does not always translate exactly 1-to-1 to the NFL. Certain special players it does, and Garrett Wilson's doing it.
And there is a reason that he was the number 1 receiver in his class coming out of high school. He was, for most people, the number 1 receiver on the board coming out of college. I know Drake London ended up getting taken a little bit higher, but I think the 3 of us, I think we were all unanimous in he's our wide receiver 1.
Yep.
I know London was close there for a little bit, but he's just such a talented player. And look, would it have been maybe a tad bit safer to take T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Amon-Ra? Like those guys probably are a little bit safer, but I don't see a scenario where Garrett Wilson isn't at worst a solid wide receiver 2.
Worst case scenario.
Worst case. But the ceiling is you look at size profile, you look at how they play, similar to a Justin Jefferson style guy.
He's wide receiver 1 potential.
Yes.
The word's potential, but like he's the kind of player when you watch him play, it's my favorite way to like draft players. Honestly, I don't need to read all the stats. I don't need to read about all these deep analytics about breakout age and what he does on this. Like you watch Garrett Wilson and you're like, this guy
He can play football.
is an elite football player. And elite football players put up a lot of fantasy points. And that's what I see with Garrett Wilson. And for what he's doing his rookie year, makes me very excited about where he's going to be in 2024. And obviously he needs a quarterback to pan out too, but like I'm really excited to see I wish I knew where Garrett Wilson would be in the overall ranks in dynasty ranks in 2024 because I feel like it's going to be really high.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's going to be a top 3 or 4 guy.
Yeah,
I think he's that good.
He's that good.
Yep.
And just watch him play football. I know he's only averaging on a per game basis like a little over 13 points per game. Nothing crazy, not going to blow your mind.
Still as a rookie.
With the quarterbacks, his quarterbacks been Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White.
Right.
So, and it kind of same thing like we talk about like the DJ Moore and where Justin Jefferson safe. Some people are just bulletproof.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson looks like a bulletproof player.
He's going to find a way to win no matter who's throwing him the football.
I think you hit the nail on the head. His worst case scenario, he's a wide receiver 2. Mm-hmm. His ceiling's a wide receiver 1.
And I think what makes him bulletproof is what your point is. He can win in more than one way. So he doesn't need a certain kind of quarterback throwing him the ball. Right. He can win if the guy can just dink and dunk. He'll take a little crossers and go run after the catch. Right. If it's a guy that likes to get downfield, he'll go and get the ball. He'll go up and get the ball over guys. He can win and
still has one of the most incredible catches I ever saw in that game against Clemson. where I mean he looked like he was floating.
Yeah, he was
Nuts.
I mean, the visual was like his legs and his feet were up by the guy's shoulder.
It was
man. It was
nuts.
insane.
It's his number one attribute.
Yeah.
His jump ball skills are second to none.
Right.
He's that good. So I love that pick. And Garrett Wilson was one of the guys like, how high can I take Garrett Wilson? Yeah. Ken's why I was trying to push T. Higgins. That's where I was going to go. So for me, when I'm looking at here, like I'm debating between two guys, and that's T. Higgins and Michael Pittman Jr. for me. And I know the community is probably going to go T. Higgins, a guy that averages 16 points per game. Very good receiver. Love T. Higgins. I know you can have, I took Jalen Waddle. He's the second fiddle to Tyreek Hill. So like, but the thing with them is they have a good running back, Joe Mixon. They have Jamar Chase. And I wouldn't be surprised if like the Bengals come away with like Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Like they can use a really good tight end there for the offense for another mouth to feed, right? Or they sign Mike Gesicki, something along those lines. So I'm actually going to go Michael Pittman Jr. over T. Higgins. And I said earlier in the show, he's somebody that will end up being the next Mike Evans, right? The guy who's consistently a wide receiver one that nobody really wants because he's not a giant playmaker, right? But he's a big body receiver. He's out there all the time. I mentioned outside the quarterback, he plays the most snaps. 96% of the team snaps he was on there, only as good as up there with DJ Moore and Justin Jefferson. That means something to me. He's somebody that is on a bad team with not a good quarterback. He's producing. He's only wide receiver 20 now, but he's 8th in the league in targets with 121. So he's right behind Deontay Johnson, who's got 123. And Deontay Johnson's probably another good buy low, who's currently wide receiver 29 because of the quarterback situation. But his targets are there. Like Deontay Johnson just disappeared. Everybody's talking about George Pickens. He's 7th in the league in targets. Michael Pittman is 8th in the league in targets. There's not a lot of competition out there with him. Paris Campbell's a free agent. They got Jonathan Taylor. So he's going to be the focal point of that passing offense, and targets equal fantasy football points. That's the difference between him and T. Higgins. Like, I know Michael Pittman's getting those targets no matter what. Yep. T. Higgins, there's going to be game flows that go for him. Then there'll be game flows that are mostly Jamar Chase. But odds are Jamar Chase is going to be the number one look in that offense 85% of the time, 80%, 75% of the time, whatever number you want to put onto it. So I love getting a team's wide receiver one that can produce. And I think Michael Pittman's still talented enough to go into year 3, hopefully with a stable quarterback, to really, year 4, elevate his game to another level. So still on the Michael Pittman bandwagon train. Absolutely. I know in the beginning of the year, we're talking about players who could enter that next echelon this year. And Michael Pittman was on that list, like him and CeeDee Lamb.
We thought Matt Ryan had a little more in the tank, as as the offensive line we thought had a little more in the tank.
And CeeDee Lamb did that. Michael Pittman did not. Right. Does not mean I no longer believe. I still feel exactly the way I did before. And if anything, I know that he's the guy. Like, the one thing this year showed me is that Michael Pittman's the guy in Indianapolis. He's going to get a long-term contract soon. He'll be the number one guy. He's going to make big-time money. And you're going to get that safety net of him being the guy. So for me, it's Michael Pittman Jr.
And from a points per game basis, they're very similar. 13.9 for Pittman, 13.7 for T. Higgins. So I don't think you could go wrong, I think, either way there, but you are getting the guy there. So I think that's a good pick there, where obviously T. Higgins has got to compete for targets. So this is putting me now in a very odd, I think, spot here, because there are some guys that are probably lower down that, who knows, they potentially have the higher upside than a guy like T. Higgins, but I feel like it would be criminal to kind of let him fall any further. So I think T. Higgins is going to be my pick here, and
he would have been mine had you not.
Yeah, he is that special that he can produce as the second option in the offense, and at times he is the first option. You know what I mean? Sure. So it's not like the traditional. This is Jamar Chase is the number 1, T. Higgins is the number 2, and all the looks are going Jamar Chase's way. 90% of the time, that's not the way the Bengals operate. It is a 1A and 1B. Jamar Chase is the 1A, but T. Higgins is a really high B. He's like a B plus. You know what I mean? Like
he would be the number 1 receiver on half the NFL teams. Right?
Yes,
easily.
He very easily would, and it's a high enough volume passing offense that he's still very fantasy relevant. Like I was saying before, he 13.7 points per game, and I think he's sitting at Wide receiver, where's he at? T. Higgins,
16?
15 right now. So, I mean, is solid high-end wide receiver 2 right there that you're getting. And at this point, I mean, I like that, and I'm going to leave a little bit of meat on the bone here at the wide receiver position for somebody I know that you love, because I've screwed you enough, Garrett. And if you want him, you can have him.
There is definitely somebody at the wide receiver position I love. But there's a running back that I love too, so that's what makes it really tough. So that's where I'm really struggling back and forth. I'm gonna probably take the safe play.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown has been he was a guy that I really liked coming out, and I felt so confused when he fell to day 3. He was a 4th round pick, and I was like, man, I must have really missed that evaluation or something, because I go back through and I'm watching stuff, and I was, no, he looks really good.
He still looks really good.
I don't know, and not that I'm bulletproof. I definitely have my misses. Don't get me wrong, but it just felt like he should have been at least a round and a half higher. Like, I really thought he was going to be a late 2nd to early 3rd round guy, and he fell to the 4th, but he fell to a situation where this was a team that was in desperate need of somebody to come in and be the alpha. And traditionally, the alpha is not a guy that lines up in the slot. Although more teams are doing that. They're lining up some of their best players in the slot. But he is a true slot receiver when you look at size and build and things like that. He really is a slot receiver, but he has been, just unreal. He finished his rookie campaign absolutely on fire. He's once again about to cross 1,000 yards this year, 6 touchdowns, despite missing some time earlier in the year with some injuries. Missed basically 2 games or 3 games basically with injuries. So he was in for 2 of them, but he didn't play at all. So with missing 3 games and still about to cross 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, the targets are unreal.
Insane.
Just Jared Goff is always looking for him. Just the past few games, 10, 12, 9, 10. Like, he's always getting the looks, and he always seems to be open. And this is an ascending offense.
And it was 8, 11, 9, 10
right.
before that. So it's not even like just the past 4 games. It's like the past 8 games.
Yeah, we're not even
It's
like
insane.
cherry picking. He's always open. He always makes the play. He's always consistent. And is he going to be as sexy as Justin Jefferson? No, he's never going to be that guy. He's never going to have the build of Julio Jones. He's never going to be one of those guys. But when you're talking about a consistent producer that you can put as your wide receiver 2, and there'll be a lot of times he'll give you wide receiver 1 numbers. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. So there were other players that tempted me here, but he was just so safe. I think he was a safe, smart pick that will be fantastic on my team for years to come.
I think, again, any player we talk about here it's a good pick, right? I probably would have went Chris Olave here, only because, Amon-Ra St. Brown's been great, but Jameson Williams will be back next year.
Sure.
And they traded a lot up to go get him. He's a dynamic player, so odds are he'll probably turn into the number 1 look here too. And Olave kind of goes back to that, like, all the receivers on the team are old. They're all free agents. Olave's looked absolutely fantastic in this offense, better than even I thought he would look. So it just goes back to that, like, target share, number 1 guy on his team. But again, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can't beat it. Ascendant offense. Hopefully Jared Goff's here a little bit longer.
And assuming it's Jared Goff, that's even better for Amon-Ra, because he will probably still lead the team in targets. Now, Jameson Williams will get the bigger plays and the long touchdowns and things like that, but I still think he's going to have a very healthy target share, even with Jameson Williams.
Once Jared Goff figures out that he can't out underthrow him or overthrow him,
he had him wide open for a tutty.
They're 1A, 1B for me. Like Olave, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like there's like, and they're pretty
really,
close
really
to, like, player wise, they're even very similar too. So, great pick. So let me recap these picks for you.
Let's do it.
It went Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, Garrett Wilson, Michael Pittman Jr., T. Higgins, Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's going to be hard to, like, even argue in a startup some of those guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's not a lot of guys you would kind of go in there and be like, oh, man, I'd really think, like, if you did a startup and those were the first 12 picks, you wouldn't have a lot of argument. Like AJ Brown would be in that category.
Sure.
Obviously, would
Metcalf,
jump in there.
DJ Metcalf.
DK Metcalf would be that.
DK
Metcalf.
DK Metcalf.
Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, like right around there. But for the most part, that's the first round. I mean, it's why we do this show, because we're just talking about like the top tier young guys, because that's Dynasty fantasy football, right? They hold precedent above most everybody else. So that's our top 12. That's our pick. It's been an absolute pleasure talking Dynasty fantasy football with you guys for the last 12 months or 2022. As we all know, the seasons come and go. So I know 23 is right around the corner.
Right there.
But we'll blink and we'll be in the same spot talking about 24 and Caleb Williams and
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. being the best wide receiver prospect we've seen ever. How high will we go? You know, so it's been a pleasure. It's been a blast. I hope you've been help in 2022. I hope to get better in 23.
Absolutely.
And take it to another level. We have a lot of things planned for nerds, whether it be tools or the website. A lot of things in the hopper. So it's been fun. I hope everybody has a very happy holiday, no matter what holiday you celebrate or anything. Just stay warm. And of course, no matter what holiday, I hope you have a very happy new year with your loved ones. And I hope that 2023 can be better than your 2022, no matter how good it was.
Well said, my friend. You left nothing on
crushed
the bone
it
for us. Yeah, good job.
Normally we get to like chuckle over something. You delivered that smooth, and it was nice.
See you in 2 weeks.
Adios.